Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about DNA. Here we've got Angelina Jolie's DNA, represented by this geomag. We've got Brad Pitt's DNA, represented by this geomag there. And when they decide to have a daughter, they replicate their DNA, and their daughter gets half her DNA from her mother, Angelina Jolie, and half her DNA from her father, Brad Pitt. So we're just going to do that now. So we split the DNA up, and half comes to the daughter. And here we have the baby's DNA daughter, half the genes from her mother and half from her father. So we're going to look at this DNA in a little bit more detail now. So now we're going to look at the daughter's DNA in a little bit more detail. So we've got it laid out here as represented by the geomag. And we're going to look at one special bit, one small bit called a gene, which is represented by these two bits of geomag here. So we'll put an arrow to show which ones we're talking about. And this is called the BRCA gene. Now these two bits of geomag, or DNA, they code for a special protein called the BRCA protein. And the BRCA protein, which is represented by this little man here, it comes back and actually works on the DNA. And it's a repair, it's like a mechanic, as we can see. Because what we'll do is just show you now is our DNA comes under attack from lots of different things. It comes under attack from radiation, comes under attack from alcohol found in beer and wine, comes under attack from viruses, not the viruses like in the common cold, but other types of viruses, and also all the toxic, the bad things in smoking, they can also come and attack our DNA. And they can do lots of damage to our DNA. What they can do is they can change the bases to their different colours, for instance, which would be bad, or they can break the DNA, as we can see here. And when the DNA breaks, this is where the special BRCA protein comes along. So the BRCA protein can come along, and it can move over the top, and it can actually fix the DNA back to normal, which is really good because that prevents cancer. Because how cancer happens is when our DNA breaks or the bases change, the cells can then multiply out of control, and that's what causes cancer. But our BRCA gene is really good and stops cancer because it comes and fixes it. Okay. So we're now just going to talk about Angelina Jolie's DNA, which we've got set out here, and we're going to talk about the BRCA gene, which is why we're here. So Angelina Jolie, she's like everybody else. She's got her DNA from her mum, which is going to be represented by the yellow, and the green bit from her dad. Now, normally we have our BRCA gene, which we've got signalled here, and you get a yellow one from your mum and a green one from your dad. However, she's a little bit different, and she inherited a faulty gene from her mum. And we're going to represent this by, instead of yellow, by a black one. Now we're quite lucky because we get one from our mum and one from our dad. So, and we only need one of them to code for the special BRCA protein that comes and fixes our DNA. But as you can see, that she only inherited one from her father. Therefore, when we have radiation in the form of like radiation or toxins from smoking or alcohol or viruses, they can go ahead and damage the other one, the green one. So Angelina Jolie would then have two black ones. And this is when it's bad, because we can no longer code for our special BRCA protein that comes and fixes our DNA. And this can then lead to cancer, because if these viruses and smoking and radiation comes back again and damages our DNA, for instance down here, the BRCA protein is not coded for anymore, and it can't be fixed, and that's when our DNA is damaged, the cells can multiply to control, and that's when we get cancer. So that is kind of why Angelina Jolie has a much higher risk of developing cancer and underwent a mastectomy.